250,000 5-year-olds are due to start prep. I've got one who's going to be starting prep in just a couple of weeks, fingers crossed. But thanks to a COVID-disrupted lead-up, many of them won't be ready.
One of the biggest concerns is their lack of familiarity with books and reading, leaving them at a serious educational disadvantage. Literary expert Patricia Hipwell has written a guide on what families can do to help, and Pat joins us now from Brisbane. Good morning to you. What are we seeing with 5-year-olds just starting prep right now when they get in?
Good morning to you. Yeah, well, the developmental readiness for school is a key thing. We look at a lot of different areas when we talk about developmental readiness. Obviously, social skills are important, physical, fine and gross motor skills. But in the area where I work in literacy, readiness for school and for learning to read, there are lots of things that we look for. So oral language is a big one. How well are children speaking? What's their vocabulary like? Are they using a lot of words? Do they understand words? Can they listen to instructions, follow instructions? Do they show interest in books? Do they enjoy being read to? All of these are markers, or what we might call pre-literate behaviour, so that when they get to school and they receive more formal instruction, then it tends to be more effective more quickly.
And we are seeing 21%, I think, is the figure, not ready, not developmentally ready. Why is that? Is it YouTube, TikTok, too much television, not enough television? I don't know.
Well, yes. I mean, there's no simple answer to that. We've certainly got to, in terms of, if we just take one aspect of it and take oral language and look at the role of screens, and not just screens that the children are using, but also, how much time are the parents spending on their screens, when that could be really perfect time for talking to children, pointing things out, developing conversational skills. So, I mean, screens aren't bad. Screens are here. They're not going anywhere. But it's in those early years, we've got to be mindful that the time that students and children spend on screens is going to be beneficial for their literacy development, rather than distract from that, because it's such pivotal and key time, that little gap, that initial gap that many children start school with, rapidly becomes a big one, and that makes schooling and ultimately life much more difficult.
And sadly, the ramifications are huge. I think the figure is 1 in 4 in Year 7 aren't meeting literacy and numeracy rates. So really, what can parents do right now to address it, if you're talking about a child just starting prep or in their early years in general?
Yes, well, I think some of those things I've mentioned in the early years, but really a hothouse of books in the home, joining libraries, giving children every opportunity to be immersed in books. I mean, there's a reason we don't teach children to read using text messages, because they don't provide the rich language and the experiences of books. So it's really important. Parents are very busy, and I mean, lockdown has put a huge strain on parents and families. Very, very difficult, but it's only has to be for those early years where we develop and foster that love of books and ultimately reading, and those children will be set for life.
Patricia Hipwell, literacy consultant and author, thank you so much for talking to us about this issue.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Now, talking about screens, we are